All right, everyone. Good morning. It's a little bit after 10 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Aaron, if you can call roll, please.
Councilmember Green present, Councilmember Moreno present, Councilmember Harris present. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Let me start with the approval of the minutes from our June 1st meeting, if I can get a motion. That's been moved by Councilmember Green, seconded by Councilmember Harris. We have 3 yeas, no nays, and the minutes are approved. Just so you all know, I'm going to go out of order. I'm going to take item number 4, which is the motion on an independent monitor. This is kind of an easy item that we're going to take up, and it won't take long. And then I'll take up the community solar resolution, which of course everyone is here for today. So item number 4, as you all may recall, the city council passed rules when it comes to power generation acquired by Entergy New Orleans, that it has to go through a very transparent process. And one of the things that we also added to it is we wanted to add an independent monitor to help us evaluate the different proposals that are sent in. And so this just allows the independent monitor position to move forward as we release requests for proposals for this particular position. So that's all that this does. If I can get a motion to approve. It's been moved by Councilmember Green, seconded by Councilmember Harris. And there was no public comment, Aaron? Okay, and I have no cards. Okay. 3 yeas, no nays. Okay. Now to the item that everyone's here for today. And this is a really big deal, and it deals with getting our community solar program right, and so that we can get more projects underway. The resolution that we're going to have before us today makes changes to the community solar program so that it becomes more favorable to developers, and that it will in turn lead to more projects getting underway. I really want to thank a lot of the different stakeholders who are here, Together New Orleans, as well as Sister Alicia. There you are, Sister Alicia. Of course, you've been a huge help. Broad with Together New Orleans, the Alliance for Affordable Energy. A lot of different stakeholders were part of this process so that we could really work on getting this right. A little history here real quick. So the previous council, when I was chair of utilities, we created the Gulf South's very first community solar program so that neighborhoods could register to get clean solar energy from what we like to call solar gardens that are developed right in their communities. So that meant that people wouldn't have to try to install solar panels on their homes, but they would still have access to solar power. And this would also allow for renters to be able to benefit and tap into solar power as well. So unfortunately, though, when we put this together, when we put the rules together, the rates that we created in our early rules were just not favorable to investors to enter into these particular projects. And so the Alliance for Affordable Energy actually flagged that the tariff rate should be offering what we like to call full retail value, so that projects would be able to pencil out better for investors, and projects ultimately would be built. So as I mentioned, we heard from many advocates and stakeholders that we needed better rules and program modifications to really catalyze on the projects in New Orleans to get more community solar and to get it done faster. So for really the past year, we've been working on a series of changes to our community solar program to capture the momentum of this energy transition. So here are the steps that we're taking in this particular resolution, and Andrew Tuazola, my chief of staff, will walk us through the steps a little bit more specifically as well. So that we help projects get underway, we're changing the tariff rate from 7 cents to nearly 12 cents, and this rate will be adjusted for inflation as well. To ensure that low-income communities are prioritized for development, we are adding an additional 2 cents there. And to guarantee long-term stability, we're instituting a 20-year contract term. In addition, we've already increased it from the project's potential side being 2 megawatts, and we've increased that to 5 megawatts, once again, to make it more cost-effective as well. So I really think that at the end of the day, community solar can be a real game changer for the people of this city. Potential subscribers who get into this particular program will see their bills decrease, which of course is a really great thing, but it also helps us meet our renewable energy goals for the city of New Orleans, because it's going to increase the local renewable production that we have in our city. So I think today is finally that breakthrough moment to getting many projects built and have our program finally thrive. So with that, I'll bring up Mr. Tuazola, my chief of staff, along with some folks from Together New Orleans, who will be making comments based on this presentation as well. Thank you. So Andrew, when you're ready, you can start, and then we'll go down the line. Each of you introduce yourselves, and you can make your comments on the presentation.
Sure. Good morning, members. Good morning, everybody here. I'm really happy to have the folks from Together who have been really helping drive this change here in this policy. I'm going to try to step through this pretty quickly and allow these folks to give some testimony about what the work that they've been doing to both advocate here at the council, but also throughout the community and build support for this type of change. So very briefly, as Councilmember Moreno mentioned, we instituted this in 2018. We passed rules in 2019. If you've been alive in the last few years, a lot has happened in those years. And there have been a lot of disruptions, a lot of uncertainty, and certainly this program has been affected by that. Whether it's COVID, whether it's supply chain, whether it's just generally the change in federal policy, there's been a lot that's changed. And I think this program needed some updating, and we needed to make sure that we got it in a place that made it successful for the long term. So very briefly, as I mentioned, and as everyone is aware, despite the fact that we did our the diligence to get some rules passed, nothing happened. And so for the last 4 years, we've been working on some changes. As you all know, nothing has occurred. I mentioned some of these reasons. The biggest of those is that these projects inevitably, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit developer, they need to make dollars and cents. So without the appropriate rates, without the rates that would support these projects, they can't happen. And anyone will tell you that up and down the chain. So what we endeavored to do, and again, with the help of stakeholders, we worked with not only Together and of course the Alliance and our community partners, but also with national partners like the Community Solar Association to get this program right and to compare ourselves to other successful places. We want to make it successful. So we wanted to make sort of fundamental changes and reimagine it. So the very first thing we did in terms of changes is that we changed the tariff rate to the cost of solar. It used to be about 7 cents, and we've taken it up to about 12, which is closer to retail. And then, of course, as the council member mentioned, very importantly, one of the things that community solar does and allows for is that for people who either can't afford or don't have access to solar power, community solar gives you that opportunity. But what you need to do is make sure that it's affordable. And so using this adder, this 2-cent adder, we increase the attractiveness of having low-income customers within the community solar subscriber base. And I just want to point out that there's probably no greater policy we can change to create long-term electric bill decreases for people than giving them access to cheap solar power. And basically the way it works is you pay a small fee to the group, and then you will receive in turn a decrease of your bill that will net you a lower light bill, which is incredibly important. And that's in permanence as long as you're a subscriber. So that's a huge change. There's nothing else we can do to change rates as fundamentally than this, in my view. So really important. So getting this right is critical. So again, we increased the rates. That's important. We also did a few more things that I think are important, and the council member touched on all of these. One, of course, is creating long-term certainty. So for anyone who wants to develop it, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a for-profit entity, everybody wants to have a certain time period and understanding where they're going to the future. You want to have scale. So like everything else, a larger project is less costly per watt. And so what we did is we took a threshold requirement of 2 megawatts being the largest, and we took it up to 5, which is a pretty large project. And again, these are all land determinant often, and we just don't have a huge amount of land in New Orleans to build giant projects, but we think that 5 is about the biggest you could possibly do. And so we wanted to make sure that that was available to anyone who wanted to make sure that they could take advantage of the economies of scale. And then finally, one more change we made is that In each case, subscribers would get renewable energy credits, and in other places, you can exchange those renewable energy credits. In essence, it has a cash value as a value. But often individual subscribers may not have the wherewithal, the sophistication, frankly, the interest in exchanging a single credit. So what we've done is made it possible for, as an option, individuals to give those credits over to the developer. So the developer could accumulate all the credits in their project, turn around that large bundle of credits, and turn that into cash, which will help them finance those projects, especially for nonprofit developers. That could be very instrumental in getting cash up front to be able to do these projects. And again, we want to make it as easy as possible to have these projects happen. So with that, those are really the changes. There's some other things, of course, but I think those form the basis for why I think this program will be successful into the future. And I want to turn it over to our friends here at Together to give some testimony about the work they've been doing.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairperson Moreno, members of the committee, and council. My name is Evelyn Turner. I am a leader with Together New Orleans through Level Ground Community Church in Holly Grove. Together New Orleans is made up of 54 member organizations. Together, those institutions represent about 40,000 residents of our community. On behalf of that body of ordinary, extraordinary people, I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you on what I believe is a historic day. 9 months ago, TNO filed to be interveners in the utility docket 1803 to amend the city council solar rules. We have been very active participants in this docket, as you'll hear later. We intervene to represent the interests of low-income families, renters, and people on fixed income like me. The recent increases in our electric bills we've experienced these past 2 summers are nearly an unbearable burden. We need ways to help families, not just month to month, but for the long haul. But I must admit, this is a new thing for us, intervening into utility dockets. And I don't mean for Together New Orleans, I mean for people like me. I was born in the desired community, educated in George Washington Carver Senior High School and Loyola University. I've lived in Holly Grove for 16 years. For that whole time, this council has had regulatory authority over our utility system. And before last year, I couldn't even have told you what a utility docket is. But now I know. And so do other people with me here. Today, hundreds of us understand this process. I know because I've been part of the process. That democratic process, which too often in the past we've allowed to be not very democratic. We're doing this more and more, intervening in utility dockets, not just here, but at the Public Service Commission as well. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of patience, and it takes money. We've raised tens of thousands of dollars to get the expert guidance we've needed at times. We're doing all that because we can't keep doing business as usual in this city. We need courageous changes to get a utility system that is more affordable, more resilient, and renewable. We're going to need courageous changes. That starts with participation. So to close, Together New Orleans intervened in utility docket 1803 with 2 goals. First, to understand why the community solar program has not functioned, producing 0 projects in 5 years. And second, to understand what needs to change to fix the program. Others will walk through the details of that. For my part, I want to commend you, Councilman Member Moreno and the members of this committee. I want to commend you, your staff, and the staff of the utility department and your consultants. You took a program this council created 5 years ago. You recognized that it wasn't working and you started a process to fix it. Through the docket process, you've been open to the evidence and analysis, not just from big companies and the highly paid consultants, but to the evidence and analysis put forth by ordinary citizens as well. I want to go on record to say that Together New Orleans endorses the changes before you here today. We think they will result in a successful community solar program, and we urge you to support them. Thank you.
So I'm Reverend Jeff Connor, leader in Together New Orleans, active at St. Mark's United Methodist Church in the French Quarter, and a retired United Methodist clergy who's served all over the city. Through this docket, here's essentially what Together New Orleans has done. First, with the help of the Department of Energy, we studied other community solar projects across the country, which ones succeeded and which ones did not succeed. We really came to the conclusion that it looked like the solar credit rate per kilowatt hour was the main driver of success or failure for community solar projects. We then engaged the Department of Energy to do a feasibility analysis and economic modeling to see mathematically how our current program holds up. And as you know, it doesn't. DOE helped to determine what the solar rate would be needed to make it succeed. Then we got another analysis by consultant Gable and Associates to determine the actual value of solar. All of this pointed us to the same place, which is that the solar credit was artificially and significantly devalued in the current analysis. To fix this value, that rate must be the retail rate. So our positions are, number one, an increase in the solar rate. And then we have the 6 rules, and you fixed all but one of them, and that's good. We're great about that. The solar rate to 10.5 or more, solar rate adjustment for inflation, low income adder, consolidated billing, increasing the max size, and increasing the contract from 10 to 20 years. So what you are proposing is excellent. We're excited about it, but respectfully, we really want you to continue to engage you on the one, which is consolidated billing, but not currently at this time. Some think it's essential. Some think it's not. We've looked at some experts who thought, hey, you could get by without consolidated billing, but let's keep looking at that. There's one other issue which has arisen, which is the short time frame on getting the development up and running. It's only 12 months. So you may want to consider raising that at some point. But we stand here to say that these changes fix the problem. Isn't it nice to have a problem fixed? And you guys are going to fix it for us. So thank you. Thank you very much. So we can now move forward. We urge you to vote for these changes. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Hansen. I'm a member of First Grace United Methodist Church, member of Together New Orleans, and a resident of District D. The person who I worry about most is my neighbor, Joe. Life has always been hard for Joe, but it's been especially hard since his mother died this spring. And he walks with a walker, so I was surprised when he came and knocked on my door in the middle of the day. 2 weeks ago, I was on a Zoom meeting. I was like, Joe, what are you doing here? He said he couldn't call because he'd not paid his cell phone bill, so his phone was cut off. He sat down on the couch and he asked me if I had any experience selling anything on Facebook Marketplace. I said, yeah, why? And he said, you know, my light bill, I'm way past due on my light bill, and I'm afraid it's going to get cut off. And the only way I can pay the bill is to start selling some of my mother's furniture. The house is paid for, he gets some food assistance. By far, his biggest expense is his utility bill. And he's really limited in his mobility, so the difference in his being comfortable and safe and surviving is the difference between him having electricity or not. Being able to subscribe to community solar, being able to save a little bit of money on his utility bill every month might be the difference between him being able to stay in his home or not. So for Joe's sake, for all of our sake, I urge you and encourage you to pass these community solar rules today.
Good morning, council members. My name is Sister Alicia Costa. I'm the congregational leader of the Sisters of the Holy Family, founded in this city in 1842 by Henriette DeLille to serve the poor, particularly the elderly, and to educate children and teach Black children to read at a time when it was illegal to do so. Today, we stand on the shoulders of our founders, continuing to serve the poor in ways demanded by our own time and context. It is out of my commitment to that tradition and my sisters and to that mission that I stand before you here today. Our times now demand that we serve the poor by addressing the affordability of energy and by addressing climate change and carbon emissions. About a year ago, as part of our work with Together New Orleans, the Sisters of the Holy Family set out to develop a community solar farm on 22 acres of land we own off Dwyer Road, just behind our mother house and St. Mary's Academy. We want to help reduce energy costs for those who struggle, like Joe, to pay their electricity bills. And we want to do so using carbon-free solar energy, helping to reduce our utility system's reliance on carbon emissions. In that, we have been encouraged by Pope Francis through his encyclicals Laudato Si and Laudate Deum. We had the opportunity to meet with the Holy Father in his residence in the Vatican in mid-September. And he was deeply encouraging, all thumbs up, of our project. We believe our community solar project will reduce costs for our poor residents, while at the same time caring for our planet. Working with TNO, we had an analysis done, as previously mentioned, on this project and discovered under the existing community solar rules, the project would not be viable. We found out indeed that no community solar projects could be viable under the existing rules, because the rules themselves made those projects impossible. I want to thank you, each of you, for revisiting and revising those rules. We believe with the proposed rules you are considering today, our community solar project will move forward. Immediately we'll start to work and become a reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all of you. And Sister Alicia, you shared that video of you and the Pope together, which was pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're getting the thumbs up from him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once again, I just want to thank all the advocates who work so tirelessly with my staff, with Aaron, with our consultants, to make sure that we worked every piece out as best as we could and got to, you know, the wins. On the consolidated billing, we're still working on that. It's just going to take us a little bit longer, but you know, we've got the 5 out of 6 today. So we're excited about that. I'll turn it over to
batting average.
Exactly, right. I'll turn it over to council members if they have any comments. I don't see any. If they don't, I will go to Councilmember Green.
Well, you know, I'll wait until the card,
Okay,
but I would like to comment out.
we have a lot of public comments. I'll go ahead and get started on that. First, I'll start with Jesse George, the Alliance for Affordable Energy.
Thank you. Jesse George on behalf of the Alliance for Affordable Energy. The Alliance commends the council for taking bold action today to amend our city's broken community solar rules. In particular, we are pleased with the increase of the tariff rate for community solar subscribers to a full retail rate and a rate of retail plus 2 cents for low-income subscribers. From diverse stakeholders, we've heard that this issue was key to sparking our inert community solar program. We also appreciate the council's decision to maintain flexibility in the ownership of renewable energy credits, or RECs, with ownership defaulting to subscribers. Though most residential subscribers likely will opt to transfer ownership to developers, we continue to believe that this flexibility will be important for attracting certain commercial subscribers and enabling subscribers to receive the most value from their subscriptions. I would be remiss, however, to stand before you today without mentioning another docket that is currently pending before you, which is UD 2204, pertaining to energy efficiency and demand-side management solutions. In fact, this docket came to the end of its procedural schedule in April of this year. We're simply waiting for the council to act to improve our city's energy efficiency programming. The need for this improvement is apparent. Entergy filed its most recent programmatic report on Energy Smart on October 6th. That report showed that Energy Smart is underperforming and underspending in virtually every category across customer classes. Not only this, but as we noted in our formal comments under docket UD 2204, currently very little of the benefit of Energy Smart programming accrues to low-income Entergy customers, precisely the residents who could most benefit from its services. This is why the Alliance has proposed a 15% target for Energy Smart, such that 15% of overall program energy savings should accrue to low-income customers. Community solar and energy efficiency are pieces of the same puzzle and are crucial to establishing true resilience and energy security for ratepayers.
To wrap up.
We applaud the measures the council is taking today and ask you to keep pushing forward toward a just energy future for New Orleans. Thank you.
Yes. The next three cards I have are for the folks who are already at the table, so I'll move those aside. You've made your comments. The next person is, it looks like it says Valerie Cheryl Elaine. I don't see anyone coming up. I'll move that one to the side. The next one is Elizabeth Soyak.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Elizabeth Soyak, the co-chair of Climate Reality Project Greater New Orleans chapter, and also a member of 350 New Orleans. And Climate Reality Project is a member of Together New Orleans. We're all speaking in support of better community solar. 350 New Orleans has been advocating for more renewable energy in New Orleans for several years, and was part of the team that put together our city's renewable portfolio standard. And we're very excited to see this proposal to make community solar a reality in New Orleans. And also as part of the Energy Future New Orleans Coalition, FNO, Climate Reality Project, and 350 New Orleans support better energy options that will give ratepayers a break and move us off fossil fuels faster, because we know that in order for New Orleans to be here in 50 or 100 years and avoid that extra sea level rise, we need to get off of fossil fuels now. And so community solar will help us do that. And we also support the 15% target for Energy Smart with the Alliance for Affordable Energy. Thank you so much to the committee members for taking this on and voting for community solar today.
Thank you. Next is Pierre Thomas. Pierre Thomas.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Pierre Moses. I'm the president of 127 Energy. We are a local solar and battery storage project developer. So first, I'd like to thank the council for revisiting and revising the rules. This is a great step in the right direction. And one major benefit of community solar is that the generation is inside the city. So utility scale generation is wonderful, but to have the opportunity to build notable amounts of renewable generation inside the city limits is really important. Another incredibly important aspect of community solar is that it leverages private investment. And so the rate increase that is included in the proposed resolution does exactly that. It allows private investment to be deployed into these projects. And now a credit rate is high enough that we can both deliver energy savings to subscribers as well as generate an adequate return on investment for investors. So thank you for that. Although we're very excited about the proposed rules, the 5 out of 6 is a wonderful shot. We certainly do want to acknowledge that consolidated billing could be an issue that we'd like to address going forward. The complexity around billing and collection could result in lack of confidence in the program from subscribers, and that's just not something that we want to allow. And lastly, there is a development deposit in the rules currently that for a 5 megawatt project could result in a $250,000 deposit for a project. That's a significant amount of money. And if a project is not operating within 12 or 18 months, that deposit could be forfeited. So I think given long lead supply chain items like transformers and switchgear, it's important that we address that deposit section in the current rules and look at maybe extending out the number of months or years that a project has to begin operating. So thank you very much for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Next up is Don LaDuff, followed by Rodney Wallace.
Morning, Council.
Good morning.
Don McDuff, Chief Operations Officer for Norwood Public Schools. We're just here to again support the resolution that is in front of us. Currently, the school district is taking part in a grant process through the Department of Education. And we are in the second phase. The first phase, we have already received a $50,000 grant to support community solar. It's the Community Power Accelerator grant. And what we're in phase 2, which is going to be for $200,000. And what we're planning to do is use some of the land and buildings that we have available to support community solar. And so we have 2 sites that are currently designed for this, and that being the George Washington Carver site in Councilman Green's district and Averson Sci Academy in Councilman Thomas's district. And so we want to support our community, our school community, but also the community as a whole. So we are in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, Mr. Wallace. And then after this, Annie Clark, although she does not want to speak. So after this would be Ms. Valerie Cheryl Elaine or Etienne, if she is here.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Rodney Wallace with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 130. I just wanted to bring everybody's attention that there's also a workforce development part of this project too. We've been working with together on the community lighthouse program over the last 2 years, and we've been able to put intermediate workers on it, beginning workers on it, and experienced workers on it. And being that they have a commitment to union workers usually make 27% more money than non-union workers. So we're talking about decent paying jobs that these projects are also creating. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Do we have online comment?
We have 8 online.
Okay, go ahead.
The first comment is from Gerald Peter DeGray. Yes to the community solar amended rules demonstrate NOAA's leadership to the rest of Louisiana. Susan Sakash. As a resident of New Orleans, I am concerned about how we as a city build a sustainable energy infrastructure regulatory system that can withstand the climate impacts, not only of today, but of the tomorrow that my child will inherit. Community solar must be a part of the planning today. Please advance the resolution. I would also like to see the council and planning commission take steps to ensure that the companies that get the contracts to build out the community solar infrastructure are local DBE businesses that pay living wages to their workers. Thank you. Charlotte Clark. I ask City Council to join me in supporting Resolution R 23-507. New Orleans is in dire need of a resilient grid with distributed power generation important for disasters. Lower bills commensurate with residents' income and available renewable energy sources that will allow us to have a livable future given the threat of climate change. I support the solar credit rate increasing to 11 cents per kilowatt hour. I support inflation-based adjustments to solar credit rate needs. I support a solar credit rate adder to incentivize developers to subscribe to low-income customers. I support consolidated billing. I support an increase to the maximum development capacity from 2 megawatts to 5 megawatts. I support an increase to the max contract term from 10 to 20 years. The resolution achieves most of these goals. This is an easy and great action to take towards reducing energy cost burden on residents and building a livable future. We have no time to waste. Please take this important step. Emily Caverly. I support the proposed rule changes to community solar. The changes will encourage the development of community solar projects by making them financially sustainable. Robert DeMarais Sullivan. After considerable reading, I have personally concluded it is urgent to limit carbon fuel pollution, including petrochemical byproducts and the consequent climate change. The science fiction catastrophe, if we don't, is terrifying. For my grandchildren, it will be tragic. Government officials have the authority to do something about it. Corporate and corrupted government officials are refusing to do anything about it. Community solar is only one piece of the puzzle that is the solution. Vertical access wind generators in every yard, solar panels on every roof or over every parking lot or on every big building, perhaps river-driven hydroelectric power. All these contribute. In my judgment, the city council is relying far too much on the out-of-town advisors when we have many adept and knowledgeable people here at home. It is dereliction of duty to continue to contract with them. Diane Caverly, I support the proposed rule changes to be voted on Monday, October 30th. I will be unable to attend the hearing to show my support in person. The development of community solar projects will save customers money and contribute to making a more resilient power grid. This will only happen if those projects are financially sustainable. The rule changes, particularly increasing the credit rate for solar electricity, will encourage new developments. Desha Greeley, fix the city's broken community solar program. Eric Greeley, fix the city's broken community solar program. Those are all of the comments.
We have one more. Pastor Manning, come on up. I just got your card. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. How are you? I just rise to stand and to speak in favor of the community solar and the change to the rules. This is an incredible day. Any day is incredible when LCMS Lutheran can stand with Catholic nuns. I would just like to say that we are moving progressively forward, and this is an opportunity to create equity when we know that many people in the city of New Orleans are utility burdened, spending upwards of 25% of their income on their utility bills. So this leaves them not to be able to put food on their table, take care of their children, put gas in their tanks. And so having community solar and changing these rules will make life better for all of us. I was in Atlanta the other day, passing through on my way to the airport, looked to the right and the left and saw all kinds of solar panels everywhere. And my thought was that if this could only be the city of New Orleans, and today is that day, when we become to look like Atlanta and do something different. I thank you and applaud you for what you're doing. Let's look at the consolidated billing because we don't want any stumbling block to get in the way to make sure that the people of New Orleans are taken care of. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Green.
Fellow members of the council and the members of Together New Orleans, and also the Sisters of the Holy Family and those who are energy advocates in our city. This is an important day. I kind of want to emphasize a couple of things. This is such an important project. It's as important as some of the matters that the city council has been dealing with recently, where the media was lined up to take quotes and to put it on television, but we don't have media here today, but they're watching. So I want to emphasize to the media that's watching that what we're doing today in terms of some of the changes are going to make possible solar panel use and solar farm use throughout our city of New Orleans. I do want to emphasize the word community solar to those who are watching. Sometimes we have a mixed relationship with developers. We get concerned that developers are going to make a profit and it might be an excess profit and the like. Well, you know, sometimes that needs to be overcome as it's being overcome today. It's okay for a developer to have energy credits and to generate additional profit as long as they're doing the thing that is in the best interest of all of our citizens. But I emphasize the word community to let you know that community solar can be run by community organizations and the communities in which they're located. We do have vacant land in our city, for example. We do have many rooftops that can be used on public buildings, such as the school board is going to be doing. And I'm so pleased that Carver High School is a site for the first of the school board's solar communities. Community solar. But I just want to emphasize that there are sometimes benefits to the fact that in some areas there's vacant land. Councilman Thomas can speak for his district, but Little Woods has a lot of land right in the middle of that community, for example. And there's land at other places in New Orleans East and the New Orleans Regional Business Park, for example, that can be used. And of course, the Sisters of the Holy Family have shown their generosity by making their 22 acres available for the development of a community solar site, and that is good news. I am also the representative of the Desire Florida community where, unfortunately, due to a variety of circumstances, there's a lot of vacant land there. It also is going to include soon the Gordon Plaza development, which after decades has been adjudicated, if you will, so that the city of New Orleans is going to have that available land. In a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is to those communities that are watching, come together and look at sites and consider that the residents of those communities may be able to come together with organizations such as exist here today to develop those sites. Because it is possible for us to have solar farms throughout the city of New Orleans. We have some resistance on a state level that we have to overcome, though. And you know what it is. There are a lot of people who don't want to see it. They don't want to see it in their communities. Oil interest and fossil fuel interest oppose it in many instances. But we can use New Orleans, again, as an example of the right way to do it. And with Together New Orleans, with the Sisters of the Holy Family, with the Alliance for Affordable Energy, with the organizations who are here, I think that we have a chance to use New Orleans as an example of how you can work with the private sector, the public sector, and communities to have more community solar farms in place and to have a viable community solar policy. So I'm just pleased to be able to cast a vote today on this particular motion as we move forward. This is a good day for all of us here. And it's a great day for, my last time I'm gonna use this word, communities. Get involved with this project. Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Councilman, when you talk about the media comes when they look for something to go wrong. The people are here because they're looking for something to go right. The word puzzle was mentioned in a couple of the comments, sister. And this is a piece of the puzzle. But I have to look at this in terms of globally, right? And how it fits. Because if you study the history of where we're going, especially the last 30 years in that cycle, for working class people and people who live at or below the poverty level, everything that seems to benefit them is unaffordable to them in terms of what they eat, where they live, their public utility, and how they travel. So with this piece of the puzzle, it's good to see that something is going right in terms of access and affordability. But I would ask Reverend Manning and Sister that this piece be fit into the other piece of puzzle that has to do with housing and food and reliable infrastructure and access to solar and wind and electric that's affordable to everyday people. Because what do we know about if you kind of study the world today with inflation and costs and access to those things that help us? We know that just to fix one piece of the puzzle isn't good enough when the rest of the puzzle is consuming people. We learned that at the Congressional Black Caucus and working in the Wealth Conference there, when the thing that was most notable was that African Americans were losing ground in every social category, from home ownership to generational wealth, per capita income. We're losing ground. 150 years later, Kimbrough and Dr. Anderson are saying that in those critical areas we have not gained. And that unless something happened to stabilize the culture, all of the grants and all of the programs aren't enough to close the gap to the disparity. So while we celebrate here this piece of the puzzle, it has to continue to be a critical piece of the puzzle so that everybody can benefit. Thank you.
Councilmember Morel?
As I sit here with this tremendous crowd, with this tremendous 5 out of 6, not perfect yet, proposal, I'm really struck by the fact that oftentimes the public does not understand the advantage of having the city be its own regulator. As a legislator for almost 13 years at the state level, the hostility towards solar renewable energy cannot be understated. The rest of the state, and a lot of it has to do with a comprehensive plan of misinformation that takes place. We have a former president who says that windmills cause cancer, that sort of thing. And as a state legislator, just the complete pushback against solar initiatives was really breathtaking. I mean, we can look back over the last 24 months where you see constant approvals to add additional industrial waste production plants in Cancer Alley. Then you see communities who rally up against solar farms. I mean, that happened in the last 2 years where one is absolutely toxic and killing a community. The other has no negative effect whatsoever. And whereas pollutants and polluters are forced into an impoverished Black community, you have another non-Black community who doesn't like the aesthetics of solar panels. And that is our state of Louisiana. So when I look at New Orleans has really taken a different track. And I want to commend, and you seldom hear this, I want to commend the previous council because many of the things we're reaping today happened under the previous council. The aggressive effort by my vice president, former chair of utilities, to reconstitute our energy portfolio and to force Entergy to accelerate to a renewable portfolio, that is unique to New Orleans. The rest of the state is not doing that. When you look at the fact with Gordon Plaza, under Council Vice President Moreno's leadership, the effort to buy out Gordon Plaza and turn it into a solar farm started under the last council, though we're finishing that fight. These are efforts that you would not see anywhere else. So when you talk to your friends and family and they go, man, we really should merge into the PSC.
Yeah.
This would never happen if New Orleans were part of the Public Service Commission. Because despite the efforts of great people like Devontae Lewis that kind of dragged the PSC in the 21st century, they are repeatedly at the mercy of fossil fuels and non-renewable energy. When you talk about the PSC as a utility regulator, the majority of the PSC is not from New Orleans and not for renewable energy, which makes it difficult to do things like have activists meet with staff and in a very quick turnaround, you're talking about a month or two, have rules in front of us.
Yeah.
And it cannot be understated that having a regulator who's as close to you as your city council makes things like this possible. Last but not least, I always, and I tell Pastor Mann this all the time, I think it's impressive that we have so many people in this community that are in search of solutions and they bring solutions to us. The Lighthouse Project, these rule changes, these are all community-driven solutions where the council is a vehicle to get over that last obstacle, but you are the ones who are in control of your destiny, and we're just the tools to get that done. And I commend all of you for being here today and helping us make this a renewable city, part of a renewable community, and hopefully part of a nationwide effort to move away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Thank you.
Well, I definitely think that President Morel was spot on in what he said. And I think really the kind of the last thank you that I would like to give is to my Chief of Staff, Andrew Tuizzolo. I think many of you all have worked with him over the years. He really, from the moment that I got elected into this office, he has studied and really learned the issues around utility regulation. And he has become really an expert, in my opinion. And he has really prioritized how we could really push for additional renewables in the city of New Orleans. Right off the bat, you know, we ensured that Entergy finally made right on their promise of 100 megawatts of renewable energy. Started working on community solar, made sure that New Orleans was where the renewable clean portfolio standard would finally happen throughout really the southern region, and we remain that spot. He is one of the reasons why so many of these major things have happened, because he was committed to the work and committed to working with all of you, the advocates on the ground, the stakeholders that believe that this is really important overall for our city and for overall affordability measures when it comes to ratepayers. So the big thank you that I would like to give on this particular issue and just overall on many of the big things that have happened on utility regulation is to Andrew Tuizzolo. Thank you, Andrew. And Aaron, you get a lot of thank yous because you just rock it all the time. So we appreciate Aaron, who runs our utility regulatory office. All right, with that, I will make a motion to adopt, seconded by Council President Morel. All in favor?
I'm a machine number.
5 yeas, no nays. Thank you. It's unanimous. All right, with that, move to adjourn. Seconded by Councilmember Harris. All in favor? Aye.